Welcome to RTD Radio.
Road to damascus.radio.com.
Lucky you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you guys. Oh, go ahead, Carlos.
No, officially now. I'm happy. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Armando. It's just that I'm so happy.
I forgive you. It's okay.
We finally got our website domain names taken care of.
Awesome.
We are road to damascusradio.com and caminoadamasco.com for our Spanish version.
There you go.
Of these shows, which we will get to at some point.
We do have one Spanish show recorded, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that later.
Like
exactly.
3-1.
3-1. There you go.
We're gonna get to that. We promise.
Well, thank you guys once again for joining us for another episode. I know on our previous recording we kind of gave a breakdown of what we were going to talk about in these upcoming shows.
The menu of things to come.
The menu of things to come.
Called.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Today we're going to tackle
head on,
just ugly. We're going to tackle a subject that is both dark.
Oh yeah.
It can be very dark, but
be.
also can be very good.
It can.
We're going to tackle or attempt to tackle paranormal activities. Something that I believe everybody has some kind of interest in, some kind of experience. Or something
in some way, shape, or form.
In some way, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We do want to mention that this is not going to be a campfire ghost story telling our little stories. No, it's not going to be that at all. It's really going to be more informational as far as the information I want to convey. Of course, there are going to be some dark topics that, I'll be honest with you, would not be suitable for, let's say, some of a younger audience. Yeah, younger listeners. Not that we're going to get so graphic, but just some of these topics we're going to be discussing can be a little disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is our disclaimer.
Yeah. Just kind of protect yourself. To be honest with you, me and Carlos we did pray right before. We did pray right before hitting record because even me, and I know Carlos, doing some of the research.
It got weird.
It got weird. It got a little scary.
I got goosebumps
and,
on some of these.
Yeah, you know what? Yes. When, oddly enough, even last week when we were talking about this.
Yeah. There was an event.
Yes.
There was an event that happened here.
Yeah.
We might get into it later. It depends on your comments down below whether you actually want to hear this or not. But there was a hello that was said while we were recording. And actually one of our friends, Daniel, shout out to Daniel, he actually caught it. I had not heard it, but we were just talking and you can clearly hear a person, a woman, it sounds like a woman, just say hello out of nowhere. And Armando didn't believe it at first, and today I actually tried to have it ready today.
Can you tell our listeners exactly 1 minute and where to hear that? In our previous show, of course.
It's our previous show, yes, at minute 5 with 38 seconds ish. I mean, anywhere from 5 minutes 35 seconds to 5 minutes 40, 42, somewhere in between there. Like I said, I'll try and have it for our next show if you guys are interested.
Yeah, I know I've had a few people tell me they heard it as well. Me, I'll be honest with you, it could have been a burp. It could have been my chair squeaking or whatever. I mean,
like a woman.
Don't get me wrong. It could have been a hello, but I mean
that's why we're calling it paranormal.
It's unexplained. Yes.
I mean, which leads us to our first point.
Yeah.
Actually defining what is paranormal.
Mm-hmm. Let's define it. What does it mean?
Well, online, Wikipedia, Webster's Dictionary, they define it as phenomena described in popular culture, folklore, and other non-scientific bodies of knowledge, whose existence within these contexts describes to lie beyond normal experience or scientific explanation.
Huh?
Yeah.
No. I understood it.
Well, to me, they're just trying to categorize it into what some people call pseudoscience, You know, they're trying to me, it seems like they're trying to demerit the reality of paranormal happenings, activities, occurrences. Because in my mind, stories become legend, like you were mentioning the other day, Armando. But when you get similarities between some of these stories spread out across the entire world, and you start finding patterns and similarities between these stories, it just doesn't fit that description of non-scientific body of knowledge. Because to me, the scientific method involves empirical data. And empirical data is nothing more than observations. So a story told and retold with eyewitness accounts that are extremely similar, to me, that's about as empirical
as you can get, really.
As you can get. I mean, it can sound anecdotal, like some people try to describe it, but
I
mean, come on.
I know definition I read was of or relating to the claimed occurrence of an event or perception without scientific explanation. So the way I dumb it down would be to the unexplained. Really? Paranormal would be just something that happens that you can't explain.
I guess. But the person witnessing it,
of course, the person witnessing it, to them it's crazy. Yeah.
Totally obvious what's going on.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, we did kind of give a list of some of the things we were talking about. Of course, from last week to now, I'm sorry. We Carlos and I, of course, did research on specific topics. Now, he has his own, I have my own. He really made it a point that we don't share any information. So there's a lot of topics I'm going to speak on where he has additional information that I didn't even know, and topics that he's going to talk about that I can probably shed some light on.
Of course.
I mean, we're going to educate each other, really, and also the main idea really is to educate you. Like I said, I do not want to turn this into a let's just tell scary stories around the campfire kind of story. No, it's not that. It's really, you know what? These paranormals, of course, they don't have an explanation, but we're going to try to do our best to help explain them. We're not going to give a reason for them, but we can try to explain them.
Yeah, and interact with you guys.
And interact with you guys, of course. We
Based on the comments.
We want your input, of course.
We're most likely not going to get through our lists.
There's a lot. Yeah.
There's a lot. So we're just going to start talking about it. We might, towards the end of the show, just kind of give a list of the ones that we're going to get into later.
Yeah, like a part 2.
A part 2, yeah. I mean, if it comes to that. And from there, I don't know, where do you want to start, man? We had ghosts, UFOs, psychic abilities, extrasensorial perceptions.
I'll let you start off. You know what? Pick one of those, and then we'll go from there. We'll go on what you were able to learn about.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go to where I'm most comfortable.
Okay.
And to me, based on my background, all this idea of extrasensorial perceptions is where I feel most comfortable with, because that's where I have most experience.
What do you mean by more experience?
Well, I grew up in a household where my mother and father, at that moment in time, because later they changed, they were heavily into meditation. They were heavily into metaphysics. They were heavily not into occultism. Later on, I started studying a few of that. But they were more into doing things like astral projection.
Now, what is that?
Achieving astral projection.
What is astral projection?
Astral projection is I don't want to call it an art. It's not an art. It's when you project yourself out of your body, typically within a dream scenario, and you interact with the world while you're in this plane of existence.
So is it like an out-of-body experience?
Yeah, some people call it all out-of-body experiences. The difference is that an astral projection is controlled, whereas an out-of-body experience is induced either by an accident or by a third party, by some kind of manifestation. Whereas the astral projection is done through a meditative process, much like lucid dreaming.
So it's like an exercise. Like you train yourself to do that.
Yes, you train yourself to do this.
It doesn't just happen. You gotta want it to happen.
I don't want to get too into the specifics of it because I'm not endorsing it.
Yeah.
Especially now that I've come back full circle and realized that Jesus Christ and the gospel, the Bible, has a much clearer, more precise message and understanding of these things than what I was studying. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to endorse it, but
it exists.
It exists. Yeah. And I can tell you experiences about it. For example, in an astral projection, I remember projecting myself to a place and testing this projection. So projecting myself to a place and finding a specific colored rock hidden next to a bush that was not, on like a normal path. It was kind of hidden, right? After the projection, coming back to this location and verifying that in fact this specific colored rock actually does exist behind that bush in that specific pathway. So to me, it was like proof that this plane of existence is here. I definitely didn't walk to this place because once you're out of your body, and like I said, there's rules, and I don't want to go into it because I'm not endorsing it.
And you don't want people to start doing it.
Well, if we're not going to avoid people from doing these kinds of things. I mean, if you want to get into anything,
you're going to do it.
You're going to do it, right? Mm-hmm. The reason why we're talking about this is because we're sharing our experiences. It is paranormal, right? And
this is... I think leaving my physical body to travel somewhere in the universe and then being able to come back and then still vividly remember where I was, that's pretty paranormal.
Yeah. More than normal.
Yes, yeah.
Taking the word paranormal into a literal context, the para meaning more than normal. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you. Which you actually hit a chord because the aspiration of some of these higher level people that are more deeply into this is actually projecting themselves to different planets within the solar system and interacting actually with other astral projectors to have a kind of meeting where they exchange information.
Have conversations or whatever.
I never got to that level, thankfully.
You weren't a grandmaster?
No. Thankfully, no, because at that point, I think you're asking to get hurt.
Yeah. I know I've heard stories of people that say they've been somewhere in their dreams or whatever.
There you go.
And they go to this place and they can describe specifics of places they've never been to.
There you go.
I know we've all had that feeling where we go somewhere and it feels like we've been there before, but for a fact you've never been there. Yes. I know that's happened to me, where I'll be somewhere on planet Earth, whether it be here close to my house or somewhere else, and I know for a fact I've never been there.
Yeah.
But something in me tells me, you know what, I feel like I've been here or whatever. But I know there's other people out there that can. Like you said, they've never been to China, but they can tell you where a specific rock is going to be under a specific bush, full knowing they've never been there because out of their body they were able to travel there.
There you go.
Yeah, that'd be a good little breakdown.
There's obviously different mechanisms.
Yes.
For example, now that we're here, remote viewing.
Remote viewing is a whole subject unto itself, but there's documented proof. Admittance, at least by the United States government, not only of its existence, but they used it.
Yeah.
Now, what remote viewing is, for a lot of you that know, and I should have said this before, if you're not driving, take out a notebook. We're going to be saying a lot of different things that you probably didn't know. We're going to be saying names, using specific terms that, they might be a little fun to kind of search on your own.
Yeah.
But feel free to just Take as many notes as you can. Going back to remote viewing, the way I understand it is think of it like you're able to see a movie in your head of things that happened, are happening, or are going to happen, that you're able to kind of predict, the way I understand it.
Can we reference the Hollywood piece here?
Go ahead.
Men that stare at goats.
The Men that Stare at Goats. It's a movie, of course. It's a big movie. I know George Clooney's in it, and I think there's a few other. No. I think it might be Matt Damon, or I'm not sure. There's a few. There's a movie where remote viewing is a part of it, but really the breakdown was these guys apparently have these extra powers in them, so that they're able to pretty much stare at a goat and make its heart explode. It make its heart stop.
Well, that and pass through walls.
Like
I just described with the astral projection,
things like that. Now, we think it's funny, it's a dumb movie or whatever, but there's government records that, you know what, they actually did this. They tried to do this during the Cold War. So what they would actually try to do is get these individuals to astral project themselves to, let's say...
For reconnaissance
to a Russian missile silo.
There you go.
To find out what the enemy is doing.
Where they're at. Where they're stationed. Exactly. How many people are there.
Exactly.
How many troops.
You can see why this would be of importance to the United States government, especially in that point in history.
Yeah.
Where any tidbit of information could literally make the difference in a war. So there are documents out there that...
Not just United States.
No, other countries. I mean, Russia, we know for a fact Russia did it as Japan, well to us. Yeah, the Russian astral projections guys over there did the same thing, sending their people over here to learn as much as they could. Yeah. And
the Germans.
But remote viewing is something a little bit different, where some of these guys claim to have actually seen, like I said, like a movie of the future, where they can they claim for the most part they're able to see the future in their heads. So they're able to see like an accident happening 20 minutes from now on the expressway. Yeah. They see it in their head already, so it kind of tips them off.
Which would be similar to the astral projection, where you're, somewhere else witnessing a physical event, yet your body is not physically there. Yeah. So there's got to be some kind of connection. Is what we're trying to deduce here in this conversation.
And there are some famous remote viewers even to this day. I mean...
Well, there's people that even try and sell courses on how to do
there's even people literally out there that teach you how to do it, and they are pretty successful. I mean, these guys are well off. And, I mean, it's a very real thing. I don't know I've never remote viewed. I've never astrally project. I've never...
You don't really want to try. It's scary.
I can.
It's scary.
I can understand, but I've never done it myself. But there's people out there that do. I'll be honest. There's people out there that do want to be able to do things like that.
It's not safe.
The way I see it is, I forgot what movie it was, where it's like the little kid is dreaming. He's out of his body doing his thing, and he sees all these demons and whatnot. Yeah. And the basic premise of the story is, when you leave your body, you leave it open, so something else can come in.
That's actually a rule.
Exactly.
In astral projection.
So the way I see it is, if I'm going to, quote unquote, leave my physical body and go somewhere else, it's like me leaving my house with the door unlocked.
Yeah.
Pretty much anybody can come in and either just move in or mess things up pretty much while I'm gone. Worst case, they'll lock me out.
Which is why, when you're being taught to astral project, the instructor, one of the first and most important rules is that there's a string. Well, not like a string. We'll call it a string, or a golden thread. Different people use different metaphors for it in different colors, but there's basically a thread that connects you back to your body and is present at all times. And is supposedly unbreakable.
Now, so you can come back. So you can come back, exactly.
So you can come back, exactly. Or you can yank yourself back into your body if your experience is not favorable.
Exactly.
Which, like I said, after coming full circle and studying the Bible and other aspects and even other occult sources of information, that's kind of like a lie.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a blatant lie to confuse you and give you enough confidence.
A sense of security.
to actually go and start doing these things. Now, what I think is really important to mention right now is that there's a lot of people out there that do different things, like remote viewing, like astral projection. So there's something to it, right?
Yeah.
And I believe that you're entering into a realm, a plane of existence that you're not meant to do or be or live in or be a part of, or else you wouldn't have to go through these special procedures to get to it. You wouldn't have to train yourself as a remote viewer to actually access this plane or this place. Another thing is that once you're here, you're actually conscious of other beings
there, so you're not alone.
No, you're not alone. And that's another thing, is that you don't have mobility like you do when you are in a normal day. If I had to describe it a certain way, it's almost like being in a pool. The movements are very slow, and whenever you move your hand, you can basically sense that there's like a wave, or that you're causing some kind of effect within this plane. Speaking, you can't really talk. You don't need to talk, because there's some kind of I don't want to say connection, but this plane has different rules, so communication is done differently. That your thoughts actually turn into waves of something, intention, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Right? So talking verbally doesn't work, but you sense these things that are there, and more often than not, it's scary. And it's not just because this is new to you. It's scary because you get a sense that they don't want you there.
Yeah.
They're like, this is their home. They don't want you there.
Whoever lives there doesn't like you there.
Exactly.
You're in the wrong neighborhood.
You're in the wrong neighborhood, to say it lightly.
Yeah.
So,
the way I can relate it, as far as the way I understand it, to like, let's say a more like a biblical standpoint,
yes,
is we know at least I know for a fact. I mean, I believe it wholeheartedly. There is a spiritual world, a spiritual realm out there.
That's what I wanted to get to.
Where God lives, where the angel lives. Call it heaven, call it the third heaven, whatever you want to call it. It's not earth. It's not a physical 3D universe.
Yet it's here.
Yes, it's here, but it's not here. The way it's just a different plane of existence, a different dimension, whatever you call it.
That's what I've been saying.
If I draw a dot on the paper, that's the first dimension. If I draw a line, second dimension.
Yeah.
We live in the third dimension because we can touch and whatnot. Now there's above us. Now, when you astral project, the way I understand it is that's actually your soul leaving your body, pretty much.
Per se.
Your spirit. Soul, spirit, per se.
Yeah.
So what other creatures do we know, or what other entities out there we know are purely spirit?
Yeah.
I mean, the Bible does refer to them quite literally as unclean spirits.
Unclean, yeah.
It also does refer to them literally as like angels. They're not of this world.
Yeah. Or
even God himself. It's a whole different dimension.
Yes.
So when we go to that plane of existence, we're not native there.
No, we're not.
And even then, just like Carlos said, there's the bad ones.
Of course.
There's the good and the bad. Yeah.
Which honestly, if you're in the wrong neighborhood, you're gonna make a bad entity angry.
Yeah,
as opposed to a benevolent one.
Or you might think you're speaking to a good one, and it's actually a bad one just tricking you.
Yeah.
And you know what? A lot of people make the mistake of, let's invite them back.
That's a huge mistake.
One, yeah. Or I've heard of people even asking these entities for knowledge.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot. And that's where you get into these other occults and these other religions. Channeling. Mediums, exactly. Things like that where information we could not have possibly had in our 3D
experience,
flesh and bone universe.
Yeah.
But that these
entities
do have access to.
Yeah.
I mean,
the way I understand it is this is the reason why you can contact entities within this realm and ask for information, because if these entities are in this realm and they're everywhere, or they can be potentially anywhere at any moment. Nothing is stopping them from, like spying on somebody and bringing back that information to a person who's willing to exchange some part of themselves for this information.
Yeah, you're right.
Right. And some of the biggest scientists in our past have openly admitted
to do that,
to having received information either through mediums or directly through entities that they contacted either by some kind of indirect projection or a dream.
Exactly.
Or even some people under the influence of heavy narcotics.
Of course. I was about to say, a lot of the way you're describing it, it sounds like you took something. You were smoking a little something.
We'll get into that one a little later. But.
No, but there's a reason why the Bible says stay sober.
Exactly.
I mean, sober doesn't automatically just mean alcohol. No, just be of clear mind.
Of clear mind.
Yeah. But just like you said, there's a lot of famous individuals in history that got their information or their breakthroughs from other entities. And I'll just say one, Nikola Tesla.
Yeah. He admits to this.
He admits to it. A lot of his ideas, he self-admittedly says, I got these ideas from the teacher or the master in whatever dimension.
He has descriptions for him.
Yeah. Another one I could say, Edgar Casey.
I've heard of that.
The Sunday school teacher of all people. The Sunday school teacher that could tell the future, that was able to diagnose problems or whatnot. What would he do? He would literally sit on his couch, put himself into a trance, meditate, and speak to whoever was out there at the time, and they would give him that information, and he would pass it down and of course tell his clients. Now, he never charged, but he had famous clients like Rockefeller. He actually had presidents that would go to him for information. That's just a name too. I'm sure Carlos has more.
Definitely. Another one of the big ones, Madame Blavatsky.
Ooh.
Deep occultist.
Ooh.
Honestly, we've been talking about a half an hour just on over the top on this subject. Yeah, Madame Blavatsky is a whole show unto herself. I mean, she's the initiator of a lot of mystical schools. Mm-hmm. Some of the more modern occult societies are based on her teachings, and her teachings are channeled. That's the basis of what she was saying, that she was receiving this information through a plethora of different entities, and they had these messages for us, and it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Just like you touched on, we don't want to spend too much time on one. We could do an entire show on one.
We're doing half an hour already.
This is a perfect segue on communication with quote unquote the other side.
Yeah.
So let's get into a topic that I find extremely disturbing.
Okay.
The Ouija board.
The Ouija board.
Ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Ouija board.
So let me just start off by just physically describing what it is.
Yeah.
The Ouija board is literally just a flat board, usually marked with the letters of the alphabet, the numbers 0 through 9, yes, no, hello, and goodbye.
Damn.
I know. It's almost always it's gonna be accompanied by a heart-shaped piece of wood that's referred to as the planchette, and it usually has like a clear circle in the middle that lets you see through it.
Is the heart symbolic of anything?
To be honest with you, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I didn't get to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this does have I saw you reviewing patents, right?
Honestly, I was doing research on it, and really the first instance of it actually existing was on July 1st, 1890.
1890.
And
officially, right?
That's when it was like the earliest known record of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was done. It was really meant to be like a parlor trick. Think of it like a deck of cards or a roulette wheel, something like that. It was meant to just entertain people at your house. But it was actually patented with the U.S. government on January 10th, 1950. So it actually is registered and is still current. Yeah. It still has a patent on the U.S. government.
How did they patent it? What was the purpose that they stated?
When I looked it up, and actually all of y'all can just Google it. Just go to I think it's the actual U.S. Patent Office. You can find it. It was categorized as like a board game.
Just a board game.
In the actual mind of the
Sneaky.
U.S. government, Monopoly and Life or whatever games are the same
Yeah.
as the Ouija board.
Shoots and ladders.
Yeah. It's actually also
sneaky.
known as the talking board. It's also known as that. You can probably guess why. But the Ouija board, of course, in the Christian mindset, and for most people, I think, has a very negative and dark connotation as far as it's the tool used by pretty much anybody that can use it, anybody that knows how to use it, to talk to the other side. Whether you be talking to dead people, or the dead, or demons, or ghosts or spirits, it just lets you talk to... For those that can't astrally project, this is your cell phone. If you can't get there spiritually, you can just call, and the Ouija board would be your medium.
See, after having an experience like astral projections, I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
I could totally see, like a wandering, disembodied spirit finding this person who's got this board, and they just literally go up to it and start interacting. It seems like a really, like almost like an obvious thing.
Yeah.
Right. So those of you who haven't had this opportunity, again, don't try it.
Honestly, myself, I have extremely limited experience with it. I know a lot of people that have had really bad experiences with it.
Yeah.
I've read stories of extremely bad experiences with it. To be honest with you, I myself am I'm gonna avoid it like the plague.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people out there that love it, that swear by it, and oddly enough, there's even a Ouija con.
Yes, I've heard of that.
I was looking it up. There's actually a Ouija con that happened in 2015, celebrating the 125th year, and that was actually in Baltimore, Maryland.
Wow.
Coincidentally, that's when a lot of the riots and civil unrest happened around that time. And there's actually a talking board historical society.
Wow.
So the Ouija board literally has so much of a following that you have a foundation actually devoted strictly to the education and proliferation of Ouija boards. Indoctrination. Now, I see it myself, being as old school and the way I am, as a portal to hell. No, that's an exaggeration.
I'm going to agree.
I see it like I just mentioned. I see it as a cell phone to the other side. Now, the only thing is we don't know who's going to pick up. And for the most part, the way I see it, if I wanted to talk to God, I can just pray. Yeah. That's the way I see it. If I need to ask God a question or just talk to God, I can just pray.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to talk to the other guy, he's going to have his Ouija board.
I think that's what makes it popular.
Yes.
Being righteous or trying to be within God's favor is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, following the commandments, it takes discipline.
Yeah.
So, in the Old Testament, we can read about, the believers having a more direct contact with God in the tabernacle, and they messed that up. I mean, slowly they messed it up. I don't have another way to express it. They ruined that kind of personal relationship. So it's not that it became difficult. It just became
harder.
I'm going to say exclusive to those who truly want it.
Oh, yeah. That's what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, of course, the enemy is going to take advantage of this plane that, through all these examples we've been given, is obviously there. Now, again, a dictionary is going to define paranormal as pseudoscience.
Yeah, something fake, pretty much.
I mean, we've been talking a little over half an hour giving examples of what I'm going to consider empirical data. All these experience of people with Ouija boards, they're so similar, and there's patterns, and you can even spot, differences between someone like an authentic experience,
you can
and someone faking it.
Exactly.
When you start compiling this information and reading through it. So I think that because it takes so much, not effort, but it takes so much commitment to have a personal relationship with God. People that are not willing to make this commitment, they're gonna be wowed by something as simple as a Ouija board.
Exactly.
And they're gonna be deceived.
Yeah.
Right. So what bothers me is when you get some of these people who want to say, or they want to trust that the information that they're getting
is true. Mm-hmm.
Is not only true, it's there for our benefit.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Like one of the biggest spins that I see on, a lot of the New Age movement, a lot of people that are in the occult, but they don't want to realize or admit that they are,
mm-hmm.
is that they don't think that they are or want to admit it because the message is so positive.
Yeah.
Yet when you actually sit and think about what the messages are, they're never about having discipline. They're never about being fruitful with a godly attitude.
Mm-hmm.
They're usually taking shortcuts to receiving either information or even worldly possessions.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, if I get a person telling me that, this entity told me where there's a bank of food so that we can give this food to the needy, it still doesn't justify
me
using it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can see how and why all these things work, and why mainstream science would want to shun all of this and throw all of us that are talking about this into like the cuckoo bin,
mm-hmm.
right? And
the crazy bin.
Yeah. The crazy bin.
Yeah. Well, I know some of the stories I've heard. I know the story I've heard, of course, like where there'll be a group of kids, of course, playing with it.
Yeah.
One of them gets scared. They try to throw it away or literally just dispose of it or destroy it.
Yeah.
And it just comes right back. Things like that. Like it's you can't destroy it. Or I've heard of the stories of somebody using it and their hands are being physically held down to the planchette to the point where they can't even get up until whatever message is trying to come through comes through. Yeah. Or I've heard stories of people asking it who they talking to, and of course they'll get extremely disturbing answers.
Yeah.
Or whatever answer they get tends to be extremely private, where only they would know. So you'll ask it a question that only you would know, for example, and however it knows. Or there's some. I mean, I don't want to say there's good stories, but you hear stories of somebody that lost their grandma, and that's how they talk to their grandma. Stuff like that.
Which in my mind, like a spirit is just having fun with a sucker.
Exactly. The spirit's having fun with you now.
Yes, exactly.
He's pretending to be your grandma.
Just to get a laugh.
And
or whatever.
Exactly. Just probably laughing at you on the other side.
Yeah.
But I see it as something extremely just I wouldn't mess with it for myself. I know in pop culture it's huge. You gotta literally. I think there's 2 movies called Ouija, and they have their little.
You could get a Ouija board at Toys R Us.
You can get a Ouija board at Target. And you know what's even? I even saw that really freaked me out. It was a pink Ouija board geared towards little girls.
There you go.
I even saw a camo Ouija board.
A camo.
So it's all camouflaged out, making it look pretty cool.
Yeah.
I guess you can take it with you camping.
There you go.
But I see it. I didn't even know there's a mobile app. There's an actual Ouija app out there.
I don't doubt that.
So
I don't know how that would work. Though.
I mean,
I don't. Yeah.
I'm gonna just stay away from it. Now there's in doing some of the research, I saw that there are certain I don't say experts in the field, but there's a specific guy. I think his name is Stoker Hunt. He wrote a book called Ouija, the Most Dangerous Game, where he really does try to break it down.
Yeah.
And he gives stories and examples of why not to really mess with it. And he also touches up on the history to kind of give you an understanding on it.
Yeah.
Now, I'll just leave it at that. Like, I'm kind of done with the Ouija board. Not that I'm freaked out, but I just, for the sake of time, I want to move on to, let's say a different paranormal.
Yeah.
So, a paranormal topic, I'm sorry.
We could keep it along the same lines, or do you want to go different? I mean, we could talk about telepathy. We kind of hit a little bit on mediumship. You know,
you know what? Let's do that.
And seances.
Mediums and seances.
I mean, all these things are describing the same thing, folks. You know, that's kind of why we're grouping them all together so that you can see the similarities between them. A seance. Weren't you telling me that who was this Barbara Bush? No, or Nancy Reagan.
Okay, well, let's go on. What's a seance? A seance would be using an individual as your go-between, your mediator between the physical world and the spiritual world. So you would go to a medium if you want to speak to a dead loved one. Yeah. For example, like my wife died. I want to go talk to her, figure out where the car keys, she left them. I'm going to go to a medium. There you go. I'm going to do that as an example. Yeah. But so a medium would be an individual held to be a channel of communication between the earthly world and a world of spirits. Now, seances are nothing new. No. Now, I'm going to give an example that a lot of people don't even know or just kind of like skimmed over. But in the Bible, there's a seance. Yeah, and specifically, it's several times. Yeah, it's mentioned.
Mediums are mentioned.
Exactly. There's laws against them. In 1 Samuel 28, 3-25. Yeah. So King Saul there's an army coming up against him. He wants advice on what to do. Now his advisor Samuel has passed away. So what does he do? He goes to a medium, specifically in this case, the Witch of Endor. And she tells him what to do. So for me, that would be the earliest recorded seance that I know of. I mean, I'm sure there's some before that, but that I can truly say for fact that happened. Now, like Carlos touched on, seances are still happening all the time and everywhere in all the places. You wouldn't think about it, but even in the White House, there were seances being performed as recently as the 1980s by, of course, Nancy Reagan, the then
First Lady.
And she openly
admits to this.
And she openly admits it. And she even, I think, used it to, supposedly, I think she got hints on, because he had some assassination attempts on him. Okay. So I think through a seance, she was kind of tipped off, I think. Or there's different stories on that. Yeah. On different seances. And it used to be held as something like you didn't want to go to a medium. It was something like a taboo. Yeah. Now I was looking at it. There was.
Oh, now it's cool.
Now it's cool. I mean, you got the Long Island medium. Who doesn't want to talk to that girl? I think her name is Teresa Caputo. Yeah. Where she literally walks around and to random strangers goes up to them and tells them something about a past loved one. So it's cool now. It's cool to be a medium. You got celebrity mediums. Yeah. There's even a show. There was a show literally called Medium, where
that's right.
Where the Phoenix DA's office employed a medium.
The Happy Medium, I think.
And there was another Happy Medium, yeah. And so it's cool now apparently to talk to the dead. Apparently I'm old school because my cell phone only calls the living. Apparently if I don't speak to the dead on a regular basis, I'm not cool.
But like you were mentioning in the Bible, there's even people that were making money off of mediums. If I'm not mistaken, Paul rebuked a demon out of a girl who was being used as a medium. And they were basically like renting.
They were pimping her out.
Yeah, I mean.
It is what it is. They were pimping her out pretty much with her abilities. And once he rebuked the spirit that allowed her to do it, she couldn't do it anymore.
No, and her handlers.
Her pimps got upset.
At Paul.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll let you read from there. I think it's in the Book of Acts.
It's in the Book of Acts, exactly. Yeah. But so it's nothing new.
It's nothing new. And that, of course, is an unexplained phenomenon. I mean, you have... There's shows out there that try to record seances. Record seances and try to explain exactly what's happening, or even ghosts. Yeah. But like I said, now it's just something so, I don't say so commonplace, but it's become so accepted that it's not even a big deal anymore to speak to the dead or
So do you think,
or have those abilities?
Do you think that that's a sign of the times, or is it a part of our normal evolution?
No, I think it's a sign of the times. Yeah.
I think that's going to be like based on what your core beliefs are. Mm-hmm. I also think it's a sign of the times. Yeah. That these things are going mainstream, that they're being actively marketed to our children. Yeah. You know, that they're cool now.
Or maybe not even cool. Maybe it's normal.
Yes, they're trying to make it normal.
They're trying to make it it's commonplace. It's just whatever.
Like being in a place that you're not meant to be is good, or like I was mentioning with the astral projection thing. it's not for you. The place is not created for humans. It's,
Yeah.
we're not supposed to be there. We're not supposed to be messing around, and it's evident. Now, some people will have what they consider a positive experience, but that only speaks about the integrity of that person. Because after all these years, now that I think back on it, I mean, what can you possibly obtain from being somewhere, not physically, and knowing something that is wholesome or righteous, if I'm even allowed to use those descriptions without getting bashed as like, some Jesus freak or something, which, like Mando once told me, those are stick marks on your helmet, man. People calling you a Jesus freak is kind of like a good thing.
It's a battle scar.
It's a battle scar.
Okay, yeah, that and I guess true. I'm not gonna encourage you to look into it. I just wanted to let you know that it exists.
Yeah,
there's biblical references to it. There's modern references to it. I mean, you got recordings of seances from like ancient times, to the point where, like I said, you even got political references to it here in the United States of our leaders doing that. And I'm going to just say, I view it as not a good thing. Like I said,
it's not.
If we were meant to talk to the dead, everybody would have been able to.
I don't want to be the heathen here, because I wanted to jump in with the personal story. I'm gonna, at the risk of sounding like, who's this guy? I've had experience in a seance, and I'm going to lightly mention where, just to give it, credence, but it was in Mexico, and it was a very popular person out in a place called Los Mochis in Sinaloa. That's extremely popular there. Mm-hmm. And this person had an official temple church or whatever. And her big thing was that she was a medium for positive spirits. Mm. And the experience that I had was talking to this spirit. And yes, they did talk about positive things, about what you could consider possible, yet at the same time, they asked in return a very simple thing that at first thought you wouldn't really think too much about it, but now that I can reflect on it, I realize how negative it is. So this spirit or whatever told me a few things about myself that only, I would know. Mm-hmm. So that got me, interested, and told me a whole bunch of like mumbo jumbo, right? They were trying to entice me to keep going.
Yeah.
Because what he asked of me was that I put a veladora, a candle, a candle, and a food offering, which now I recognize as a blatant.
It's an act of worship.
Exactly. It's a blatant act of worship, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the second commandment. So
the first,
Well, this is the first: you shall have no gods, and then the second, no graven images. Mm-hmm. Whatever. The idea is that the underlying tone of all this benevolent talk is, hey, worship me.
Yeah.
Consider me. Go as far as giving me a food offering. So if you're fooled into doing this because this benevolent entity is telling you all this rosy good stuff, then it must be good, right?
Yeah.
But honestly, that's the way they reel you in. That's the bait. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, and I'm going to end my experience with this, the people who had been going there for years,
they keep going back?
No, not only this, the hardcore ones who were part of like the group or whatever, they would go as far as to receive a mark on their hand, which according to the spirits was to signify that they were part of this fellowship of benevolent beings who are praying for the lost souls and offering these food offerings to these lost souls. And now that I'm even talking about it, it's like, man, that's incredibly deceiving.
Yeah.
That's hard. That's hardcore, man.
It's really ugly.
That's pretty ugly. So be careful, guys. I mean,
and don't go to.
It might sound cool.
Mediums. Yeah.
It might sound like whatever information you're getting is coming from a benevolent source, but don't be fooled. There's nothing good about being in contact with that which you are not naturally able to contact.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were meant to do those things, there would be a way for us to do it without having to go to these special places, visit special people, and say special,
incantations, whatever.
Yeah. I didn't want to call it that, but yeah, that's what they are.
So that was the seances and the mediums.
Yeah.
And mediums are all over the place. They don't even try to hide it anymore. Like I said, back then it was something like shunned on. Now it's
no.
It's just bad.
Would it be fair to jump to, I guess,
Well, I wanted to give a real quick little factoid.
Okay.
Just something that
All right.
I learned a few months back. Harry Houdini, you know who that is? Harry,
yes.
the famous magician.
Yes, yes.
He actually made it his life mission to expose as many mediums as possible.
What do you mean expose?
Because he saw them as complete frauds and liars. Because apparently he had went to a medium.
Yeah.
To try and communicate with his deceased mother.
Okay.
And
he got took.
And whoever medium he went to just
he took him to the dryers.
No, it's not that. He would ask the medium or spiritualist specific questions that only his mother would know, and she was completely wrong on all of them. Okay. So he saw that. I mean, he was just completely hurt by it. He got angry. So he actually, a lot of people don't realize that, but he actually got into that business. He would literally go town to town to the mediums and expose them.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just little factoid. It's just something that I just picked up and I thought was pretty interesting.
That is interesting.
That he did that.
So you're saying he got into being a magician because
of course, when you think of the magician profession is gonna. Yeah. He wasn't really a magician. He was more of like a David Blaine. Like he would just do feats of.
Okay.
Extraordinary feats. Yeah, things like that normal people couldn't do. So he one of the reasons he got into that is so that they're kind of grouped into that same genre, I guess you could say. But he would literally go town to town and exposing mediums,
I didn't know that.
And he would call them out like just bad. So a lot of people say, I mean, that's one of the reasons why he died the way he died. I mean, he obviously got punched in the stomach and he died, but because a medium didn't tell him what would happen. Yeah.
Wow.
But I'll just leave it at that. And did you want to go? Let's go into a different topic. I'll let you choose, or do you want me to go on? Or
we're rolling on the hour, sure.
It's all good.
What do you want to get into?
I'll go on a quick one. There is a phenomenon that's been going on actually for a while. It's nothing like super scary or just something. It's just something unexplained. Yeah. And it's gonna be just the doppelganger.
Okay.
The doppelganger, basically what it is think of it like you're a double. Yeah. I think in German it literally means double. I think something like that. Double. Like it's literally like a copy of yourself. Yeah. We tend to see it or look-alike. I'm sorry. We tend to see it as historically it's been seen as like a harbinger of bad luck. Okay. So it's a bringer of, it's a bad omen. So if I'm walking down the street and I see an individual in the distance that just happens to look exactly like me, down to the minute detail, it tends to be like, think of it like your evil twin. Things like that. Yeah, stuff like that, like your evil twin.
I've heard several things
where I even have a personal story of something like that.
Okay, shoot.
That I'll share later. I'll just share right now.
Oh, let's go.
So one night I was at a buddy's house, and it was pretty late at night. We were just playing video games and whatnot. We were super nerds in high school. Yeah. So we would stay up at night playing video games, and his house is in a way where the den or the living room was separated from the other bedrooms by just a wall, and you could walk around it. I mean, it wasn't enclosed or anything, and it was pretty late at night. And his mom was pretty cool. She would go talk to us and whatnot. And this was super late, where there was 3 of us there, and we all distinctly heard the bedroom door open, and we saw an individual come out that looked exactly like his mother. We asked her, what are you doing?
Okay.
She gave us a funny look and said, I'm going to go outside and smoke a cigarette.
In her own tone of voice?
In her own tone of voice. It wasn't like a scary, we really didn't think anything of it. We were just like, okay, whatever. His mom just wanted to go smoke outside. And so she's going to go smoke outside. But we just thought it was funny that it was pretty late.
Yeah.
And then so she walks from the bedroom. She talks to us very briefly and then leaves out the front door.
Okay.
Later on, moments later, the bedroom door opens again,
and she comes out.
Guess who it is? It's the exact same. It's the mom, but she's wearing a completely different outfit. Her little vata, her little nightgown was totally different, and she had no idea what we were speaking about. Now, of course, this is a small situation, but there are other stories of where this evil twin or this doppelganger will actually cause inconveniences or bad things to happen in your life. So, let's say I'm here at work, I have an evil twin, I'm out running an errand or doing something. This evil twin will come in and take my place and start causing trouble. So that by the time I get back, people think I did all that bad things. See what I'm saying? Now, as far as a doppelganger is concerned, I'll be honest with you, growing up, I really did not hear even too much about this at all. It wasn't later on that it started being more prevalent in a lot of the different TV shows. And I'll give examples like The Flash in Vampire Diaries. The show Fringe, Grimm.
Yeah, I heard it on Fringe, actually.
The Mummy. Even, to be honest with you, the movie Fight Club.
Really?
Brad Pitt is his alter ego.
Oh, but did they mention Doppelganger?
I'll be honest. No, it's who's gonna know German?
Okay.
It's just like an alter ego, and for the most part, yes, doppelgangers would be like your exact copy, but not all the time. They don't always have to look like you.
Really?
It's like an alter ego.
Okay, because what I understood as doppelganger, and I had heard it on the show Fringe years ago. I don't remember how many years ago. At least 6, I'm gonna say.
Yeah, it was a good while back.
Right around. So I got on the internet, started looking into it, and I got into this guy called Bert Goldman, and he had this thing called what's it called? Quantum jumping. Now his outtake on the doppelganger thing was that a doppelganger is you in a parallel universe.
I was about to touch on that. Yeah, there's explanations that people try to come up with it. Yeah,
but his thing was that he even developed like a method, and it's through meditation, whatever. I mean, I went through a couple of them, but it was like And his thing was for you to contact your doppelganger in 2 ways. One is to directly contact him, to like contact the successful one, right? Because like right, it's assumed that you're the loser one who's looking into like being successful somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so you're gonna go and contact your successful doppelganger and ask him for tips. And the other one is to exchange yourself, like the high level one. Now, of course, he was selling this course.
Of course.
Right, and he was making money off of this.
Paying the bills.
And like the highest level of it was to actually be able to exchange yourself with this other one in the way of convincing this successful one or this other one, because maybe you wanted like the one who grew up to be like a Playboy model or something, right? And to convince him to exchange lives with you, and thus you be able to transfer yourself to this parallel universe,
wherever he came from.
And now that I'm thinking about it, part of his meditation incantations, like you said a little while ago, literally asked you to imagine a portal
where you just go through it or something,
where there's a door and you go and knock on it, and you're successful when your doppelganger answers. And there was a lot of that kind of stuff. Honestly, I didn't go through it all. But that was my experience on Doppelganger. So I had heard about it. But again, we've been talking about how all this is in mainstream now.
Yeah, it's all Hollywood now. It's cool.
It's cool, man. But when you really think about it, like, this is demonic.
It's straight out is. And from some of the legends I was reading and researching on, If you ever were to meet your doppelganger, it's actually one of you's gonna die.
Oh.
From some of the legends I heard, it was something
really?
extremely bad is about to happen if you ever met your doppelganger, to the point of I think even one of you is gonna die.
So is this like the parallel universe paradox?
Yeah. To be honest with you,
like
two of you can't exist in the same universe. One of you has to go.
Like Back to the Future gone wrong?
Back to the Future gone wrong, yeah.
There you go.
Michael J. So I want to touch on that, and that's actually getting more and more. It's coming up more and more in different circles, and I honestly, the main reason I even started thinking about it because was Vampire Diaries. It's a show that I know people that used to watch it, and one of the main characters has her doppelganger, and it's just like this super evil being. But I don't know how many millions of viewers that show has. Yeah. So now millions of people know what a doppelganger is. I mean, of course, based on that show. Yeah. But going back to like what you said, Fringe, that show 6 years ago said that. Yeah. And it's a phenomenon that's been around for a while.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about it until recently.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, growing up, I never even gave it a second thought. No. I never really even knew about it too much until just recently. It started popping up more in different shows and in pop culture. That's something I wanted to touch on. Something small. Another one just knock out really quick. Yeah. Is that's kind of popped up just last year, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Something called the Mandala Effect.
Oh, you had to go there.
I had to go there. I'm sorry. It's something that it's a fun. Once again, let me explain it.
Yeah, please.
The Mandala Effect is when a lot of people remember something that never actually happened,
or that happened a different way,
and it's honestly it's named after Nelson Mandela.
There you go.
It's because a lot of people remember him dying in the 90s. Yeah. But really, he didn't die till 2013.
Did he?
Or did he? No, they did, because I remember it was a big scandal when the interpreter had no idea what he was doing when Obama talked. Yeah, it was a big one. Anyways, so some examples, I'm just going to blurt them out there. Most people, there's tons of them. I'm not going to go through all of them, but some of the more common ones were like for example, Curious George never had a tail. Yeah. You see, I mean,
the Bernstein Bears.
The Berenstain Bears are honestly everybody remembers. Myself, it's a little storybook, a series of storybooks. The Berenstain Bears. Yeah. They were never called that. It's the Berenstain Bears.
Bernstein with an E, right?
No, the E is the wrong one.
Oh, see, that's the one I remember.
Yeah, you see, so do I. But they're actually the guy's name is Berenstain with the AIN at the end, and it's the Berenstain Bears. Another one that really hit close to home for me.
The Star Wars one. C-3PO's leg.
Well, yeah, one for C-3PO's leg. And also the fact that Darth Vader never actually says, Luke, I am your father. He never says that. He says, no, I am your father.
Really?
And now it's something so dumb and something else so trivial as that. But so many people got freaked out by that. Yeah. Another one is the candy bars Kit Kat. Yeah. There's no dash.
Really?
Yes. See, no. I always knew of it. Whenever I think of a Kit Kat, it's Kit hyphen dash. I mean, Kit hyphen cat. Yeah. There's no dash in the middle.
Is that kind of like the Ford sign also?
With something like that.
And the Volkswagen sign also having like a horizontal line between the V and the W.
Like something like that. Or even the Chick-fil-A logo. Another one is the Monopoly Man. His actual logo name is Rich Uncle Pennybags. Okay. He never had a monocle.
No, come on.
He never had a monocle. Ever. Wow. A monocle would be like your Scrooge glass, the one little glass. He never had that. Another one is the show Sex in the City. Yeah. It was never called Sex in the City.
What?
It was Sex and the City.
Really?
Yes.
Wasn't there like even jokes made about it being Sex in the City?
It was never ever. It was actually never ever called that. Another one that got me was of course, who hasn't seen the movie Snow White, or at least knows the famous line "Mirror, mirror on the wall"? Yeah. Okay, that never. It doesn't go like that at all. It's actually magic mirror on the wall, not mirror, mirror.
I remember mirror, mirror. Also.
So do I, but it's actually magic mirror on the wall. Another one is the second part is who's the fairest of them all. It's actually who's the fairest one of all. So there's little words here and there.
Well, those are nuances.
And some people even go as far as to say that it has this Mandala effect, whatever it's causing these mass memories that never existed apparently.
Yeah.
Even to the Bible.
That's where it bothers me.
That's where it kind of got me like, what?
Yeah. And the lion and the lamb.
The lion and the lamb.
Yeah.
So I've heard preachers preach about the lion and the lamb or make references to the verse with the lion and the lamb.
Yeah.
When I looked it up, that actually does not happen. That verse is not in the Bible. It's specifically it's Isaiah 11:6 and Isaiah 65:25. It's actually the wolf and the lamb.
That's right.
It's not lion and lamb.
And there's a bunch of memes on the internet.
Yes.
Christian-based memes that literally go to that.
So a lot of people are freaking out because they're questioning their beliefs now, all based on this Mandala effect.
That's why it bothers me.
That's why it bothers me as well. And there's a lot of other ones. There's even a website literally called mandalaeffect.com.
There's a bunch of YouTube videos.
So some possible explanations, of course. There's an overlap of parallel universes. Is it a glitch in the Matrix?
Are we all doppelgangers?
Are we the doppelganger and the other ones?
Else?
Exactly. Or is it even possibly an effect from CERN? Ooh, and that's a whole other show. We'll leave it at that. I'll let you guys write that down, CERN, CERN, and Google it and see what you can find out about that.
I've heard about that. Yeah. That's what they're trying to pin it on.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it for the sake of time.
Opening up these portals. And thus changing time.
Exactly.
Man, that is a whole show. I actually want to do a whole show just on that.
We'll do that. We'll let Professor Carlos do a show.
CERN.
Yeah.
Ahí vas.
Honestly, a good YouTube video that really kind of helped calm me on this and just kind of explain it for me was with Sheila Zelinsky.
Oh, yeah.
She has a show specifically called Mandela Mayhem. For those of you that are not familiar with her, I would go follow her on YouTube. With a Z. She's awesome.
She goes hard on the Mandela.
She goes hard, ugly. She straight out called it dumb. She straight out rebuked it, and anybody that actually believed in it. Yeah. I'll let y'all do your research on that. A lot of people
have done shows on that. Some people haven't wanted to touch it.
I'll touch it. You know what? I'll go there.
Yeah.
You know what? If
did Gons and Basil touch that one on Canary Cry?
There's another radio show out there called Canary Cry Radio. I'm not too sure if they did. But I wanted to just touch on it because, like I said, actually, like Carlos mentioned, there are literally thousands, if not millions, of people that are remembering certain things that apparently never happened or never existed.
Or happened a different way.
So, even myself, I know my brother sent me a meme the other day how I remember a movie in the 90s with the comedian Sinbad where he was a genie.
Yes.
Yeah, that never happened.
What?
Even he himself says he was never in a movie.
It was Shaquille O'Neal, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was, I think, Kazam or something like that.
Kazam, yeah.
Yeah, but I myself remember seeing a movie where it was Sinbad.
With Sinbad?
Yeah, but apparently, millions of people, online and research. Millions of people remember a movie in the 90s with the comedian Sinbad.
Yeah.
Where he was portraying a genie.
Yeah.
But apparently, that
never happened.
Never, ever existed.
Wow.
And I just wanted to bring it up because that is a paranormal
I would call it paranormal. I'd call that a massive paranormal
lots event. And lots of people are being affected by this. So we'll leave it at that. We'll go on to there.
Cognitive dissonance is going on there.
I'll let Carlos choose the next one.
Oh, man. Well, before we move on, I just wanted to specify for those of you who don't know what CERN is, the cause of this. Well, I have to.
Just CERN, touch on it for the sake of time.
The particle accelerator over there in Geneva, Switzerland.
CERN.
And yes, sir. They are doing massive experiments. Actually, literally the most expensive, most collaborative scientific experiments ever, or at least known to modern man. I don't doubt that ancient times they had some wild technology that might even far supersede this technology we have today. But CERN, they're getting into realms where at least particle and quantum physicists theoretical physicists are actually giving credence to things like the Mandela effect actually being possible. And just before I end, one of the plausible, physical, tangible effects of this quantum entanglement that is the Mandela effect is a result of some of this quantum entanglement.
Supposed to be a result.
Well, but we have
alleged result.
We have D-Wave and these quantum computers. D-Wave and these quantum computers are they actually do their computations based on quantum tunneling, which
and we can touch on that.
That's a whole other show, man.
And I don't want to stray too far.
Subject.
There is one, you know what? There's one that I wanted to add on that actually kind of it branches out.
All right, do your thing.
A good passion of mine that I've actually always been interested in.
All right.
Would be like cryptids. And what a cryptid is literally an animal or a creature or plant that has not been scientifically proven yet.
Okay.
So the most famous example is what? Bigfoot, Sasquatch. I could have sworn I saw him at Stripes the other day, but no. But like for example, Bigfoot. That's a good one. The Loch Ness monster.
Yeah.
Chupacabra, things like that.
Yeah.
Now
sorry. Would fairies and like gnomes be considered cryptoids?
I'll be honest with you. The way when I view cryptids, you get your
or like centaurs.
You get your realistic ones to your more fantasy ones. Like a realistic one would be like the Appalachian Black Panther. It's an animal that was supposed to have that it's supposed to be extinct, but for whatever reason now there's sightings. Now for me that's like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm probably more likely to see that than I am a fairy.
A fairy.
I mean, not that fairies don't exist. I mean, I'll just leave it at that. Okay. But it's a huge spectrum where it could be like I'll give the example of when I was younger in school, they always taught us, of course, dinosaurs and whatnot. Yeah. And of course, there was fish dinosaurs. There was large dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And an animal, one of the dinosaurs that was supposed to have been extinct for millions of years was an animal called the coelacanth.
Okay.
And then, of course, what happens is some fisherman off of Madagascar in Africa, lo and behold, what does he catch?
Really?
He catches a live coelacanth.
Really?
So it's like, I would say that, that would be, for one, it would have been a cryptid. Yeah. And then, because of course there's sightings, but nobody really has any physical evidence. Once you have that physical evidence, it's that. So now like it's like an actual creature.
Mermaids?
Okay, mermaid, yes, I would say
that. Is that a cryptid?
Mermaid, of course. I mean, going back to like what you said, when you have different cultures across the spectrum of time that all report seeing similar, if not the same things, then either all of them are taking the same drug, or they're all seeing the same thing and trying to explain it the best they can. So like a mermaid.
But now that's opening up a can of worms.
You see, that's a whole other show. One I really did want to touch on because I have personal sightings or experiences of it. Would be here locally, the Lechuza.
There you go.
Now,
I was waiting for that
the
one.
Lechuza. Now in English, the best, to be honest with you, specifically it means barn owl.
Or like screech owl.
Like a screech owl. There you go. What a lechuza is, for those of you that don't know, according to legend, when I say legend, I say that's what my grandma says. But that's what my mom told me. No, according to legend, even from research I've done and just from stories you hear locally, a lechuza is a witch. Basically, it's a witch that can shapeshift into this giant bird, this giant owl that that may or may not have the head of a woman. Okay. So it's either just a really big bird, or a bird with the woman's head.
Okay.
Now that's what it is, a lechuza. Now
But tell us about your experience with lechuza.
Well, let's talk about it.
You experienced.
Me myself, okay. In high school, there was a group of us. Once it was at a football game. Okay. Of course, growing up in Texas, high school football. I mean, you're gonna be there whether you're part of the band or the game or the audience. Thing. Yeah, it's a religion down here.
Yeah.
So we were at a high school football game. It had to have been at least 12 to 15 of us.
Okay.
And we were we were just messing around, and I just remember one of my buddies looking up towards the big stadium lights.
Okay.
But he had this look on his face, kind of like, just like, what?
Yeah.
Like kind of freaked out, like he was just scared.
He didn't know what he was looking at.
Yeah, he didn't know what he was looking at. So eventually, like pretty much one by one, we all started noticing that he was looking up.
Yeah.
So of course we look up to what he was looking at, and we weren't looking directly into the stadium lights by any means.
Okay.
It was more like around it because this was night already.
Yeah.
And I remember at least 15 of us. I mean, we saw this humongous bird. It had to have been like I mean honestly human size.
Yeah.
And it was just huge, big old white owl.
And it's compared to a stadium light, so you do have a point of reference.
A stadium light, for the most part, you got the bulb and you got the that piece of metal that goes around it.
Yeah.
Now those things are like 3-4 feet.
Yeah.
In diameter.
That's what I
going
mean.
across.
So
Yeah, I can reference
reference
that. It wasn't just me throwing out some obscure number.
Yeah.
No, this thing was huge, and it was actually picking out birds in the air.
What?
Like regular little.
Like in flight?
Like in flight, it was just picking them out, and it was.
Okay.
I'm sure other people saw it that were sitting in the stands, but
Yeah.
I just remember us seeing that. Another story, I have quite a few stories of those.
Yeah.
Another story I would have is that same house where I shared that doppelganger story.
Yeah.
I remember one night, for one, it was a friend's house, but that friend he came from a very it was a disturbed family. There was always a lot of arguments. There was a lot of bad stuff went in that house.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that. No, I mean, not just physically, but there was a lot of spiritual stuff going on in that house that I'll share probably on the next show just for time's sake. But when we would go visit his house, a lot of times we would leave very late.
Yeah.
We were playing games or just talking or whatever. Yeah, just hanging out really.
Yeah.
And it was more than one occasion when, as we're leaving, on the front entrance, of course, usually a lot of the houses have like a pediment. A triangle.
Yeah.
I use the architectural term. It's a pediment. Where, man, we saw just a bird just sitting on top of the house. Not
staring you down.
Staring us down, but more like this is mine.
Whoa.
Kind of that's the feeling we got from it. Me and another buddy that we would go. And we would leave together because you'd give me a ride.
Okay.
When we left, we would see that bird. It wasn't more of like it was scaring us. It was more just like this is my house.
So it's a bird, not a human, or a human bird.
We always saw. I myself have never seen it with a human head.
Okay.
I've always seen it just as like a giant white. And it has to be mentioned. It has to be. It's for the most part. It's going to be a white, just large owl.
But did you get a vibe from it?
Yes, you just get massive fear that comes over you. Of course, seeing a humongous bird of prey on top of that. I mean, had it been a giant hummingbird, I wouldn't want to go pet it.
Yeah,
but you're seeing a giant owl with this like massive beak and horrible claws. I mean, you're not gonna want to go look at it.
But it never like shape-shifted in front of you.
In front of me, no.
Or did you like see the bird, look away, and then see like a hot girl there?
You know, that brings me to another story, but
look at you.
Okay, so no, but to answer your question, no, it never really shapeshifted in front of me. I've seen it open its wings, and that was just like massive,
like a 6-foot wingspan.
And from there, you kind of want to just drive off as quickly as you can.
Whoa.
Yeah. Now, just touching on it, my mom has some stories where she would pick up my grandmother from late night from work.
Yeah.
And she would be driving with my mom. They would start arguing for whatever reason. Of course, what teenage girl is not going to argue with her mom?
Yeah.
They start arguing, and all of a sudden, they start hearing these massive scrapings on the top of the vehicle.
Okay.
And they start seeing that the bird wings on both sides.
On both ends, like it's going to pick up the car.
I really meant it more as to so you can grasp the size.
Yeah. Okay.
Of the bird.
Okay. Yeah.
So think of your vehicle.
Yeah.
Now, from the passenger door to the driver door is going to be at minimum 4 or 5 feet. So you're talking about a bird that has a wingspan of that. 6. And then, of course, once they get to their house, they just see these massive claw marks on the roof. Ooh. And then I don't know how true it is or if it's even true, but I remember them telling me a story when my mother was pregnant. They used to live in a different house. It was a corner lot, and there was a street light.
Yeah.
And it was dusk, the sun's going down.
Okay.
And that's usually reportedly when these creatures come out.
Okay.
She was out there watering the plants. My grandma was gardening. She was with her taking care of my mom, pregnant. and my grandma just starts cussing like profusely.
Oh,
and
okay.
we'll go from there little by little. She starts just cussing profusely, and my mom turns around to try to see why literally like, why are you cussing like pretty bad? And in Spanish it sounds way worse. But so she turns around, and lo and behold, it's of course dusk, so it's getting pretty dark. The sun's going down, but on the street light is none other than just this giant bird staring at my mom's womb. Just staring at the stomach.
Whoa.
And my grandma is just there cussing her out. Of course, my mom runs in the house super scared.
Yeah.
Now, legend says that the way to get rid of these is to cuss it out.
To cuss it out.
You have to cuss it out. Now, the reason these lechuzas, these witches come at you is they're omens of bad. Somebody sent them.
Okay, so they're sent.
Yeah, so let's say I just get Carlos mad one day, and he wants a way to get mad at me. I mean, he wants his vengeance. But he doesn't want to do it himself. He's not gonna go slash my tires. No, what he's gonna do is gonna go invoke a witch to come at me.
Dang.
And I know. I mean, back then they were ugly. No, but that's usually what would happen.
So these lechuzas are like messengers of discord.
They're just ugly. Yeah, exactly. And I know we were touching on it before the show. One thing I never knew is, and doing research on it, I mean, there's sightings from 1,000 years ago to last week. I mean, these things have been like seen quite frequently and quite often and very recent.
And the descriptions are pretty much the same.
And the descriptions are almost always the same.
That's what gets me.
It's a giant bird. Yeah, exactly.
That's what gets me about these people who want to call all this stuff pseudoscience
or fake or whatever. I mean, you have generations throughout the years.
How empirical can you get?
Yeah, and one thing I learned is one of the ways that these things get your attention.
Yeah.
When they're not always sent. They can also do their own thing. They're malevolent creatures. They want to do bad.
Yeah.
And one thing they do is they will they can mimic the sound of a crying baby.
Okay.
So you're out there doing your thing, cutting your grass or whatever. It's getting dark. Boom. You hear a baby start crying in the distance. Yeah. Of course, what's the first instinct of anybody, for the most part, would be to go see what's going on. How can I help that baby? And then that's how it lures you in. It just entraps you.
I've heard of other entities that have this characteristic, this crying baby characteristic.
Yeah. Let me do real quick one more story. It's gonna be worth it.
Before we move on.
Yeah, before we move on
to the next story.
Okay.
So when we were doing research for the show, I also got into researching some of these things, and there was a thing called the Pontianak. I'd never heard of this. The Pontianak, which is from Malaysia, and apparently there's this custom in Malaysia, and a belief that if a pregnant woman dies, you're supposed to fill the mouth with glass beads and put a single needle inside of each hand, or else the deceased turns into this thing that they call the Pontianak, and it's basically kind of like a vampire just feasting off of people. It's depicted bird-like, right? And the descriptions are of a woman who turns into a bird-like thing, and is basically just trying to lure in unsuspecting people.
Yeah.
One of the characteristics is that it sounds like a crying baby.
So that's very odd how you got something.
And this is in Malaysia.
Yeah, so I mean, completely different cultures, literally across the world, that have very similar.
It's very similar.
Stories.
I mean, to this day,
and that's a pretty specific trait.
I mean, it's not like baby, bird, woman, shape-shifting.
That's pretty specific. That's not like you can't really confuse that.
No,
or it's not like close to. No, it's pretty exact.
Yeah, I mean, you can't technically define it as empirical data because there's no comparative pictures and whatever. But come on, I'm gonna call that empirical data.
Come on, man.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So
now I've heard stories on how do you take them down. Of course, one would be to cuss at them.
Yeah.
Another one would be to literally just shoot them. And of course, in our more modern times, I mean, if I was out there playing with my kids and I see this massive bird trying to come and attack one, I'm not going to just let it or whatever. I'm going to try to fight it off. If possible, there's a firearm next to me. Given that we live in Texas, more than likely there will be one. I'm going to shoot at it. So if you look up online, you do research, there's lots of stories of guys that have done just that. They shoot at it. And the only thing is, when they go look for the bird body,
it's not there.
There's no bird body. Ooh. But what they do find later on is a shot woman.
What?
They'll find a woman that's in some field, bled to death from a gunshot wound.
Whoa.
Or stuck in a tree.
And these women, are they like an identifiable person within society?
Yes, yeah. No, it's not some random woman. It's not some transient. Well, some are. Some are just some random person that just showed up. And some might be somebody you might even have known. Ooh. Now, that's going to lead me to a story I heard. This was from an individual that I could tell he wasn't lying.
Yeah. Just
because of the way he said it. Okay. And just because at the time of him telling the story, he didn't have any kind of like malice or anything towards me. Okay. So he had no reason to lie to me. Yeah. He was out when he was young. He lived with his dad. He remembers a story, or not really a story. I'm sorry. It was more of a personal experience that he had when he was younger, where he was falling asleep one night and he just kept hearing like a rasping sound, a pretty strong rasping sound.
From
on his roof.
On the roof.
On the roof of the house. Something was just, honestly, clawing, trying to get in or whatnot. Okay. And he couldn't sleep. It was that loud. Whoa. So he told his dad, and his dad kind of just blew it off, like, oh, whatever. But the dad had kind of like he knew what was up, but he didn't want to alarm the family. Okay. And a few days passed, and this kind of happened every day, where in the evening, he would just hear this super strong rasping sound. And it got to the point where the rest of the family started getting concerned. Yeah. Like his mom and his siblings. It got pretty bad. I'm sure. So his dad kind of put him in the corner and let him know that, you know what, we're gonna set a trap for whatever's up there. And by trap, I mean like a hunter's trap. Like
specialized Lechuza trap.
Well, at the time, he didn't know it was a Lechuza. He made it seem like the dad kind of knew what was going on. Okay. The dad kind of knew.
He had experience.
The dad had kind of experience, or not that he expected it, but he knew what was up there. He just didn't want to alarm the kid. And at the same time, I don't think he wanted to say Lechuza because he didn't. What if he was wrong? It could have just been a something else. So anyways, he puts the trap up there. Yeah. And sure enough, the night comes along and he hears that rasping again, that scraping sound. And then he just it stops abruptly, and he hears just something kind of like
a snap.
Not like a snap, and it kind of just like you can hear something rolling on the roof and just hit the floor.
Okay.
Kind of like whatever it was caught and it's on the floor. Okay. So the next morning he goes out there with his dad.
Next morning.
Yeah, is the morning.
Didn't roll out there.
No, it was kind of late, and I guess they were just happy that there's no more sound.
Gone, right?
Yeah, so they go out there, and oddly enough, what the trap was like a cage. Okay. It was like pretty much a cage, and what they see inside wasn't a bird or even a big bird at all. At that, it was a naked young woman. What? Yeah. She, according to him, that naked young woman was shape shifted into the owl of the night. Okay. And since it was the morning, she kind of reverted back to her normal self, and she kept on pleading with the father to not turn her in, and pretty much telling him that she'll do anything.
So this was like a known person?
I believe that I think they knew her, but not. Whoa. It wasn't like a friend of the family or anything. It was just like, just like you would see somebody out there. Yeah, like
at the store or something.
Exactly.
Like that lady.
So so that was his story, and he got pretty scared about that. And like I mentioned, I don't believe that he was lying to me. Just the way he said in his face, and given the fact that he made it pretty clear that his dad knew what was going on. That it wasn't something, and the way that caught me off guard was, to the dad, it was just like commonplace. The dad wasn't freaked out that there was a naked chick in his backyard in a cage. Like, to the dad, it was just like, haha, I caught you. Like whatever. He wasn't surprised by it.
So he maybe had experiences with witches in
the
past,
maybe.
had made somebody angry.
And it's just funny. I always thought it was funny how, for the most part, a lot of our elders, like our grandparents and whatever, to them it's commonplace.
Yeah.
To them it's just like, oh yeah, so and so had a lechuza, or so and so had an encounter with whatever.
Yeah.
Or so and so was demon possessed, or what. I mean, to them it was. I mean, it wasn't not common, but it was just like, oh, like it happens.
Accepted.
Yeah, it was like, oh, it happens every now and then.
You know, that actually gets me, because nowadays you can tell a story on the internet or on a show like ours or like any other person's show, and we get like bashed, or we get
called
accused,
crazy.
We get called crazy whatever. And all these kinds of stuff. And honestly, we're not doing anything different than what was done years in the past. The difference is that now we're doing it through a medium where we can contact a whole lot of people at the same time, or people can come back to a story and, pause it, replay it, or share it amongst their friends. So to me, this disconnect between just because your grandpa wasn't the one that said it to you doesn't make it any less credible.
Exactly. Yeah, you know what? You're right.
But at the same time, I do see a lot of trolls out there.
There's always going to be that guy. Yeah, there's always going to be that guy just literally out there just to hate. Or there's always going to be that skeptic. And at the same time, you know what? It's healthy to be a little skeptical. Yeah. But not at the expense of putting somebody down. Yeah. You know what? If you don't agree with somebody's experience, or you don't necessarily believe it's true. Yeah. I mean, don't go out there and putting people down. Just, you know what?
Yeah. Or without looking into it.
Or without looking into it. Yeah, exactly. Right. Don't be ignorant. I mean, be skeptic, but don't be ignorant.
Yeah, this is true. I agree.
I mean, at the same time, we all can't be gullible and believe everything we hear. No, I mean,
there's a fine line.
There's a fine line, and that's where you gotta use your brain and think. You can either just sit back and no, or you know what? Let me look into it, and then I'll say no.
Which is kind of why we're here.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of why we decided to start Road to Damascus Radio, so that we could talk amongst ourselves. Iron sharpens iron, like we've been saying, and bring this forum to your table, right? Interact with all of y'all listeners, and edify each other through our experiences, through our stories. That's kind of like the focus of our radio station. It's a forum where Armando and myself kind of go back and forth on ideas, ideologies, points of views, trying to refine ourselves. There's a lot of times when I come at Armando with some ideas or a certain point of view, or defending a certain ideology, but after interacting with him and his research and his experience, I come to realize that, hey, you know what? Maybe I hadn't considered everything. Maybe I hadn't seen or thought of everything from every single angle. And that's what we're hoping to achieve.
Definitely. Yeah.
With the interaction with y'all, there might be some stories or some aspect of stories we've already told that we hadn't thought about. Yeah. To complete our understanding of the theme that's at hand. So...
yeah, and that's why we need you guys to comment. If you know us personally, just reach out to us. Yeah. I mean, let us know what you think. And well, that being said, we're already coming up on almost 2 hours.
2 hours. Yeah.
So I know we didn't touch up on everything we wanted to. There's a few other topics.
No, not even
that we're gonna have to go into on the next show. I think I mentioned this.
Separate show.
Yeah, on a separate show. This will probably be episode 1, part 1. I think our next show will be part 2, where we wrap up. And I think next show is probably gonna be the darker one. Some other
this
topics
wasn't like too dark.
It wasn't.
Intro.
I had fun.
Intro.
The next show, I mean, I can just kind of briefly go over what I want to talk about. Okay. One of them being sleep paralysis.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That one, I don't know anybody that hasn't had that. Yeah. Now, of course, there's a lot of different reasons. A lot of people have different stories. Many of them are very similar. And to be honest with you, they can get pretty terrifying. Yeah. I can give you my personal experience, and I'll save that story for next time. Okay. And I can give you some stories I've heard from close buddies of mine. But that's something that I would definitely classify as paranormal. Oh, and it's gotten to the point where if the majority of people that I know have had this experience, it's not paranormal anymore. It's kind of something you need to bring up or talk about.
More normal than paranormal.
Yeah, exactly. Just because it's not talked about doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah. Another topic I wanted to touch on is going to be demon possession.
Oh,
I went there. I went there.
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
I have strong opinions on that.
Yeah, I mean, we have different opinions, and at the same time, we have similar opinions. And of course, this one, yes, I'm gonna give some stories. Not all personal, but some other stories. Not gonna be super graphic or anything, but
no.
But it can get ugly.
Informational.
Yeah, demon possession, of course, and there's those out there that don't even believe it exists.
That's
it's all in your head, and we're gonna discuss that next time.
And bring some good references too.
Yeah, I will.
Like we could throw in Mr. Malachi Martin into all that.
Yeah, I know. I didn't want to mention too many names, and to tie into
it's enticing.
No, definitely. And to be honest with you, another topic that I wanted to discuss that kind of ties into both the sleep paralysis and the demon possession would be the phenomena of the incubus and the succubus. Ooh.
Didn't we just kind of lightly talk about that?
No.
A little bit.
No, I mean we kind of did, but not too much at all.
Bit. No, we didn't get way too into it, but
okay. On the next show, I'm gonna go a little bit more into it, and to be honest, even give you modern examples of celebrities that have actually experienced this phenomena.
Yeah.
As well as past.
You're right. Yeah.
Past examples. And this one is same thing. It's a little ugly, and it can get graphic. I'm gonna try to keep it as tasteful as possible.
Yeah.
And
I do remember some artists bragging through tweet, right? That they
I didn't even mention what these creatures or what these entities are. And you know what? I'll just leave it at that. I'll save it for next show. For those of you, just go ahead and Google it.
Okay.
But I know you had some topics. What else did you want to talk about next time?
My big one, extraterrestrial.
X-Files.
Yes, sir. X-Files. That's a huge one.
That's a massive one.
We might need to do a whole show just on that one.
But let's touch on it though. Let's bring it up.
For sure.
Yeah.
And how these phenomena that we've been talking about during this show are actually correlated.
Believe it or not.
The astral projection, if you were listening closely enough, we were actually trying to say it's really similar to the remote viewing, to the seances, to the other subjects that we touched on today. We were talking about this astral plane, which is where these entities exist, if that's even the proper word to describe what they're doing, where they are.
Yeah, I was about to say
where they interact, whatever. When you take the Ouija board cell phone approach, that's where you're interacting, right? Yeah. So, and we have some really good references there because this is a topic that's, at least for me, was newer. I hadn't heard about this, say, 5 years ago. But there are some really good researchers out there, just to entice people with some names. Steve Quayle.
Timothy Alberino.
Oh, yeah. They have a series.
True Legends.
There you go.
They have 2 movie series out there that I would definitely encourage all of our listeners to go look into. And you know what? On top of that, with the UFO phenomena, one that really kind of solidified a long-standing feeling that I had was Age of Deceit. It's a YouTube video. Literally, just type in Age of Deceit. It's by Gon Shimura. He's an excellent researcher, and of course, the quality of the video itself is. Yeah, his video production is awesome. It is. It's awesome. It's something that, to be honest, we would aspire to. Yeah. Age of Deceit. It's a little long. Yeah, but it's worth it. And if you've heard us for 2 hours already, you can definitely sit down and watch this one. It's a very good one.
Face Like the Sun YouTube channel, I believe.
Yes, Face Like the Sun YouTube channel. Age of Deceit is the name of the actual video.
Yeah.
He himself does a similar show to ours called Canary Cry Radio.
Canary Cry.
That one is another resource. With Basil, yes. That's another resource I would encourage you guys to look into.
Yeah, for sure. Those guys are real
Those guys are awesome. Just to throw some names out there. And also to show, you know what? We're not the only ones.
Oh, no.
Honestly, we're kind of late on the wagon.
We're kind of the valley guys.
We're kind of the valley guys. You got to give it that valley flavor of talking about these things.
And also, I do believe we are the first that are going to double our shows into Spanish.
You know what? As of now, we have not encountered a Spanish
Well, Tim Alberino has.
He does, but you know what? Maybe there might be some out there that aren't as big or doesn't have them. You know what? We might meet our counterparts somewhere in Latin America. We don't know. And regardless, we're gonna do what we do and do our best to translate everything in Spanish. Because to be honest with you, we want to reach out to as many people as possible. Yeah, I'm not gonna limit myself.
No. Yeah, and we really want to take our advantage of our ethnic background.
There you go.
And our ties. Yeah. Or at least my close ties to this country.
There you go.
And get as many people as possible excited about correlating these ideas with the Bible.
Now, some people out there, what do UFOs have to do with the Bible?
Oh, man, come on.
And we'll get into that later. Or what does sleep paralysis have to do anything with Scripture?
Yeah, no.
You know what? We'll get into that.
It's kind of
a lot of
now.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff we're gonna get into is things that you're not gonna hear in the pews.
Oh yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah. But it's all right. What are the topics you got, Carlos? What else you got?
Well, I also wanted to get into some of this telekinesis stuff. Fortune tellers and psychics. Let's see.
I know I wanted to look in the Torah codes.
There you go.
I know everybody's kind of heard about it, but they really don't know what it is. Not that I'm going to try to explain it, but I just really want to bring that awareness.
That's a big one.
There's some let's mention what it is. On top of that, also the Shroud of Turin. And, and there's a bunch of I know. I think we're going to try to get into cryptids. I know we kind of touched on one or two.
Yeah, very lightly.
Yeah, but let's dig a little deeper into those. Yeah.
Yeah, that basilisk you were talking about, that was awesome.
You know what? Yeah, cryptids are, like I said, animals that aren't proven to exist. You know what? There are a few cryptids in the scriptures. Yeah. If you pay attention.
Quite a few.
So I think that's actually kind of important to go over.
Yeah, or allusion to animal-like figures.
Exactly. Yeah.
Leviathan.
The behemoth. The
that's
basilisk.
A big one. Yeah. We're actually in the middle of a book called what is it? Leviathan's Ruse. There you
Unraveling Leviathan's Ruse, something like that.
Yeah,
it's a very good book, though.
Yeah, I mean, I barely started out myself, right? But which, by the way, I'm gonna take the opportunity to mention on our website under the support tab, we are gonna have not only links to where you can support us financially if you would like, because the equipment and all this kind of stuff to do this is not cheap. And, we're going to have links or a list, if you will, of books that we would like to get into and that we're probably going to end up talking about during the show, in case somebody wants to donate.
If they have material. That book, or even as a reference source, if you want to read a book, those are some of the books that we've read.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can go deeper into what we're talking about,
or suggest.
I'll
work in some kind of form so people can suggest.
A suggestion box.
A suggestion box. There you go.
Different.
Yeah, and so I also want to get into horoscopes, some tarot cards.
Did I get into the Black Eyed Kids yet?
You've been mentioning you want to jump into that Black Eyed Kids.
I want to jump into that. Man. That one is super scary. Yeah. You know what? We'll get into the Black Eyed Kids. Google it if you can. You know what? Do it on yourself, and then in the next show we'll get into it a little deeper. And that one actually does scare me.
Me too. I
want to talk about it, but to be honest with you, I'm not gonna go ultra mega deep because it's ugly. Not that I have a personal experience by any means, thank God. And so now, but like I said, we'll talk about it next week. Black Eyed Kids.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, how about we end this episode, like you had mentioned at the beginning before we hit record, by accentuating that the paranormal does not always have to be just dark and scary and negative and unknown things.
Yeah, it's honestly, to finish up this kind of paranormal series, one thing I wanted to touch on is, just like Carlos said, you know what also is paranormal? Miracles.
Yes,
you know what? The miracle of birth, paranormal events would be like a healing. I know people from I know people personally that were told you have so and so long to live, and they're still here.
Or
they get healed.
You cannot have children.
Or you cannot have children.
And lo and behold, there they are.
And lo and behold, exactly, there they are.
You know what I mean?
Or even, or to be honest with you, and to even like a more specific example would be, look at Jesus's ministry.
Yeah.
The very fact that who he was and things he did by its very nature is paranormal. I mean, you're talking about raising the dead.
Yeah.
Talking about water to wine. You're talking about feeding the multitude.
Oh, yeah.
Healing.
Walking on water.
Walking on water, controlling the air. The weather.
Come on.
I mean, come on.
How paranormal do you want to
I know.
get?
What more paranormal do you want? But, so... Of course, you got your UFOs, black-eyed kids, Bigfoot, whatever. But on the other side, on their spectrum, you know what? There's hope out there, and paranormal isn't always bad. Paranormal's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, praying, being able just to speak to God, just in your bedroom, wherever you're at, that's in itself paranormal.
Yeah, that's an amazing thing.
So I wanted to end on that. You know, at the end of the day, there's always hope.
Yeah, which I do want to do a show specifically on that, on prayer, and because like we alluded to during the Ouija segment, it's a lot more involved than just picking up a board, asking some question and having some who knows what answer. It's not that easy, and I don't think it's meant to be.
It's meant to be. Yeah.
So definitely just being here, being able to speak to y'all, interacting with my friend, and edifying each other through these experiences is to me a miracle.
You're right.
You know. So
let's go ahead and we'll save our voices for next week.
There you go.
There you go. And definitely one thing I do want to encourage you guys is take as many notes as possible and give us feedback on the website, on our voices down below or whatever. And hope you guys can check us out next week.
Yes, sirs.
Yep.
God bless.
Yep. God bless. Take care. We'll see y'all.
Have a good one. Goodbye.